I am Hagar, a maidservant in the house of Abram and Sarai. My life was forever changed when Sarai, unable to bear children, offered me to her husband to bear a child in her place. I became pregnant with Abram's child, a son named Ishmael. But little did I know that my joy would soon turn to sorrow. As the mother of Abram's child, I was filled with pride. I felt important, cherished even. But as time went on, Sarai's jealousy grew. She began to treat me harshly, belittling me at every turn. I was no longer seen as a valued servant, but as a threat to our own happiness. One day, Sarai approached Abram with a demand that I be cast out of their household. She could no longer bear to see me and my son flourishing while she remained childless. And so, with a heavy heart, Abram sent me away into the wilderness with nothing but a skin of water and some bread. Alone and afraid, I wandered aimlessly, desperate for shelter and sustenance. The scorching sun beat down upon me and the harsh winds whipped at my skin. Ishmael clung to me, his cries of hunger and thirst echoing into my ears. I prayed to the gods for mercy, for a way out of this desolate place. But as the days turned into weeks, my hope began to wane. I knew deep down that we were doomed to perish in the wilderness, abandoned by those who should have protected us. I cried out in despair, cursing the day I entered into the twisted web of Abram and Sarai's lives. And then, when all seemed lost, a miracle happened. An angel of God appeared before me, offering me words of comfort and guidance. "Do not be afraid, Hagar," the angel said, "for God has heard the cries of your son, and he will make a great nation of him." Filled with renewed hope, I gathered my strength and pressed on. With the guidance of the angel, I found a well of water in the desert, a source of life in the midst of death. Ishmael and I drank deeply, our spirits lifted by the promise of a brighter future. Years passed, and Ishmael grew strong and proud. He became a skilled hunter, providing for us in the wilderness. And true to the angel's words, he did indeed become the father of a great nation, the Ishmaelites. But despite the blessings we received, the pain of being cast out still lingers in my heart. I was a pawn in Abram and Sarai's twisted game, a victim of their jealousy and selfishness. And though I found solace in God's promise, the scars of my past will never truly heal. So I tell my story not as a plea for pity, but as a warning. Beware the consequences of jealousy and greed, for they can lead to great suffering and regret. My King and Lord, sad but thankful. This is not how I would love to remember this moment. After just losing a child, our child. My name, it's Bathsheba, and I am a beautiful woman who was married to my heartthrob, Uriah. Our love was pure and strong, but our joy was short-lived when Uriah was taken away to fight for his kingdom. That night, as I lay in bed yearning for my husband's touch, my heart ached with longing. My pillow was filled with tears, but there was nothing I could do as he had to answer his duty call. Yes, Uriah and I go a long way back, but I found love in another man's arms after Uriah was taken away from me. His name, David, King David. Let me take you back to how it all began. When Uriah was taken, other women lost their husbands too, but they accepted their fate. I just wasn't like other women, so I went to the king's palace over and over and over. I kept seeking his face and pleading for Uriah's return. But each time I was turned away because the king was too busy with matters of the kingdom. However, one day when the king was done with his counsel, I rushed to his feet and poured out my heart. To my surprise, the king promised to bring Uriah back and ordered that I be well taken care of in the palace until then. True to his words, he sent for Uriah, but fate had other plans in store for me. One evening, as the sun set and I bathed under its golden rays, the king saw me from his rooftop and sent for me to be brought to his chambers. The room was huge and filled with different enticing scents. I was fed with lots of fruits, and the king was kind to me. He sang and danced with me before bidding me good night. This ritual continued for several nights, and each time I felt a deep connection with King David. He was humble, soft-hearted, yet a fierce warrior ready to defend his people. I found myself falling for him even though I tried to resist. One fateful night, as the king called me into his chambers, I made a decision that would change everything. I took off my clothes, and David and I became one. From that moment, we were inseparable. I loved David with all of my heart, and he loved me in return. But our secret love came with its own set of challenges. When I found out I was pregnant, the secret threatened to tear apart the kingdom. David was torn apart, and I watched as he wept uncontrollably by my side. One day I overheard the king sending words to reverse Uriah's return, and instead to place him in the forefront of the battle. Deep down, I felt relieved from not having to confront the consequences of my action, or having to face Uriah when he returned. Even though we never spoke of it, I knew that David had protected me. He didn't deny me, and he gave me everything I needed in the kingdom. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Although I sit here in this harem, still longing for this vacuum in my heart to be filled with something, anything.